Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, let's say you're thinking about the Super Bowl. Now, I personally believe that the value side of the play at these odds, right now, Carolina's favored by 6. Right, I believe the value side is on the Denver Broncos. Right, understand Denver beat Tom Brady not once but twice this season. Right, they beat Aaron Rodgers. They have a higher rated defense than the Carolina Panthers. They've been in close games. They've won close games. In my opinion, they have the better backup quarterback. You need to think about that if the roof caves in. Right? 6 points is too many points. But if you're someone who believes in Carolina, who believes in the big lead Carolina had at the end of the first half against the Seahawks, who believes in all the offensive numbers Carolina put up and all the turnovers Carolina got against the Arizona Cardinals, and you want to bet on Carolina, and you're prepared to lay the 6 points, what I want you to do, because it's better to be safe than sorry, what I want you to do is to also just look. We'll consider this insurance. It's to also just look at the margin of victory prop on Carolina 1-6. Understand it fits your bet perfectly. You're laying 6 with Carolina, right? So Carolina has to win by more than 6 for you to collect, right? Now, if you're laying a lot of money, you want to have some insurance just in case Carolina wins but doesn't cover. Folks, the margin of victory prop, Carolina to win by 1-6, is a plus 350. Right? So you could insure your investment on the point spread play by putting a little something on Carolina to win at 1-6. If you're in the casino, just look at the margin of victory props. Right? It might be able to help you hedge your play somewhat. All right, let's talk about tennis briefly. If you were to put a gun to my head and ask me who the most dominant athlete in the world is right now, right? A few months ago, I would have said Serena Williams, but she has faltered in her last 2 finals, right? Majors finals. U.S. Open, Australian Open. I would say the most dominant athlete in the world right now is Novak Djokovic. Right now, he just won his 6th Australian Open. Now, let me say this. I had him on a futures, right? dwyervip.com readers know that. So he delivered on the future, but the distance play that I had on the Australian Open finals blew up in my face because Djokovic was able to close the show over Andy Murray, one of the world's best, in straight sets. They did go to a tiebreaker in the 3rd, right? You know the rest. Djokovic would not allow this to go to a 4th set, right? He beats Murray in the tiebreaker. Shame for me, because life would have been different today if Murray had taken care of business in the tiebreaker. What I want people to do, though, is to realize how dominant Djokovic is, why you need to have a futures play on Djokovic in every major this season. You're not going to get the best of odds, but you're going to get better odds on the front end than you're going to get if you wait until Djokovic plays in the semis or the finals. Understand, Djokovic is the reigning champion at the U.S. Open, the other major with a hard court, right? He, of course, practically owns the Australian Open, right? Understand that Djokovic is also the reigning champion at Wimbledon, grass surface. He's won the last 2. He's won 3 of the last 5, right? And, of course, understand the French Open played on clay. Novak made the finals last year. You're talking about a guy who's always in the mix late. Understand the two guys he blew through in his last two matches at the Australian Open. Roger Federer and Andy Murray. Right? I would argue that Rafael Nadal might be in decline. Right? He's past his prime. Novak is in his. And he's beating his main competition. Right? Keep an eye on Novak Djokovic. Also keep an eye on Roger Federer. Right? Who to me seems to be a bit more consistent than Andy Murray. Right? Murray did beat Novak Djokovic in the Canadian Open in 2015. Let's just say he was unable to win a set in the Australian men's final. Let me just shift to all this controversy about Cam Newton. Let me just weigh in here. Now, Cam's one of my favorite athletes. I think Cam is extremely important. I believe that in college at the University of Florida, he was not treated well. Right? I want people to go back to that. I believe he was an athlete who could have been cut down back then. It's really the guy's determination and perseverance that had him then win a national title, right, at junior college, and then go to Auburn and win a national title there. Right? This guy really has beaten the odds. He reminds me a lot of Magic Johnson. He's enthusiastic. I know he celebrates a lot and stuff like that. And let's just say, according to reports, his NFL jersey's not selling well. Right? We like his talent. He just had an MVP year. Right? He'll be named the MVP, in my opinion. But a lot of people are a little bit shaky on him. Right? Now, I'll just put it to you this way. I admire Cam Newton quite a bit. As I said, he's one of my favorite athletes. Right? But I will say this. It's a high buy-in. In other words, if I were a football player on offense, I would find both Cam Newton and Peyton Manning to be too high of a buy-in. Right? Too rah-rah for me. I'm old school. The kind of quarterback I like is the low buy-in quarterback. The guy who basically looks at me and says, hey, come as you are. Let's play some football. Let's win this game. Right? The kind of quarterback who, Super Bowl, needs to score. Right? Everything's on the line. He looks at his offensive line. They're literally hyperventilating. And the guy looks in the stands and he says, hey, isn't that John Candy? Offensive line looks in the stands. It is. Guys laugh. Then that quarterback goes the length of the field and beats Boomer Esiason and the Cincinnati Bengals. Right? Joe Montana is really the gold standard for me. Right? Not a rah-rah guy. Not a guy who's getting up, finding a camera, and doing a dance and stuff like that. No, no, no. This is a guy who's all about business. Right? Couldn't care less where the camera is. Calm, low-key. Right? Russell Wilson is more my kind of quarterback, just in terms of who I'd rather play with. A guy who's getting dissed. Carson Palmer is more my kind of quarterback, right? These are guys who are aggressive on the field. But they have a calm demeanor, right? They don't even need to be playing in front of a crowd. They don't even recognize the crowd. They got a job to do. They're too busy working. They're not expecting you to go around, buying in, paying a high buy-in and dancing with them and high-fiving them and stuff like that. No. There's too much work to be done. Right? Tom Brady, Teddy Bridgewater. Right? So, I don't believe all the criticism of Cam Newton is racially motivated. Right? I think it's a style preference thing. Let me add, too, I wouldn't want to play with Peyton Manning because I wouldn't want to be an offensive lineman and then he's doing yet another audible. Right? Omaha. And I'm supposed to figure out, is this a sweep to the left or is he going to drop back? He's changing the play again. I have to be worried about the play. This is while I'm hyperventilating because I'm playing in a Super Bowl. There's a reason why Peyton Manning has lost multiple Super Bowls in which he's been favored. Right? And so, I don't know what else to say, but let's just say it's a stylistic thing. Cam's one of my favorite athletes. But, truth be told, if I were a football player, I'd rather play with Teddy Bridgewater or Tom Brady or Russell Wilson. Some dude who's just a little bit more low-key. You know what I mean? Who's gonna, we get a first down, he's not gonna hop up and go, no, rather we get a first down, he comes back to the huddle and he says, hey, here's what I want on the next play. Let's talk about Kovalev over Jean Pascal. Now let me say this. This fight shocked me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I saw this coming. Right? Now don't get me wrong. Right? It shocked me, but the hedge held. Gamblers were taken care of. Right? You got the Kovalev by KO part of the hedge. Right? You were in line collecting with everyone else after this fight. But I got to tell you, and you benefited from the fact that that hedge was viable because the other side of the hedge, Pascal simply to win, paid off at plus 950 or 10 to 1 in some casinos. So you were able to bet that, and then with your expected winnings or possible winnings, you were able to then take advantage of the 4 to 1 odds, right? The minus 400 on Kovalev by KO. So gamblers were taken care of. But let me just say, wow, let me back up a second. I want you to look at the guys in Kovalev's corner. I believe this is important. One of the guys in Kovalev's corner, a key member of his team, is Don Turner. Now you need to Google him. Don Turner is a guy who really is known for being one of the best teachers of a jab. Right? Let's just say that Turner, with John David Jackson, right? Jackson's the primary trainer, right? Have Kovalev offensive, right? That's a trait of John David Jackson fighters. Kovalev's coming forward. He's throwing power with both hands. He can find you with the jab, right? It's very hard to stay in the pocket against Kovalev, just like Abel Sanchez has made it very hard to stay in the pocket against Gennady Golovkin, the champ at 160. But what really amazed me with Kovalev, and I was truly shocked by this, some punchers, Pascal, for example, you saw it a couple of times yesterday, need a little bit of distance to get leverage, right? Pascal tried some big right hands, but Kovalev was too close to him, right? Pascal would, throw a right hand and literally crash into Kovalev, and the punch would sail behind Kovalev, right? Kovalev has a gift of timing where Kovalev knows to lean forward on punches like that. But you can't really lean forward against Kovalev's power shots because he has built-in leverage. Right? He's throwing heavy punches. Heavy punches. But they're short. Right? They're short. And so it's interesting. You wouldn't even realize the punch is as heavy as it is, except by looking at the reaction of his opponent. Understand, Pascal has never been counted out. Never. This is the second Kovalev fight where it ends without Pascal being counted out. Right? The first fight, Pascal gets dazed by the ropes. Ref jumps in, stops it. We can debate whether that was premature or not. I thought it was premature. This fight, Freddie Roach says to him, the round before he stops it, you better show me something, or I'm going to stop the fight. Right? In other words, we're now entering the second half of the fight. Dude, time to get off the, stool here. You better show me something or I'm going to stop the fight. Pascal comes out, proceeds to lose the round. He looks better than he did the round before, but he was clearly outgunned. So then Freddie Roach pulls the plug. Understand, Pascal is still lucid, still wanted to continue, but arguably had lost every round of the fight. right? I was amazed. I have to say, Kovalev keeps looking better and better. There's a moment in the fight that's revealing. Kovalev throws one of these short punches. Pascal moves out of the way. Kovalev has so much leverage behind the punch that he literally stumbles into the ropes. In other words, this is a guy who, I know he's up on his toes at times, but when he's throwing punches, he's flat-footed and he's fully invested. Right? You know, it's going to be tough beating him. To beat him, an opponent won't be able to stay in the pocket. An opponent's going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to alternate between being outside of the pocket. Right? I believe a David Haye, if he were a light heavyweight, and Haye's clearly not, but a guy who can move on the outside, who can leap in accurately with power shots, would have a chance on him. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Adonis Stevenson, and let me applaud his performance yesterday. I thought that was excellent when he hopped in the ring after the fight. I applaud the light heavyweight division, right? Andre Ward was also in the arena, right? I believe Adonis Stevenson, who hits as hard as Kovalev with his Sunday punch, the straight left, right? He doesn't have Kovalev's overall power game, but he has a punch that matches anything Kovalev throws. It's a showstopper. It's a game-changing punch, right? Adonis Stevenson has a chance against Kovalev if he can dance outside, then leap in with that shot. Right? Andre Ward against Kovalev, and Ward is really a multi-skilled chameleon type guy. Would have to fight the fight on the outside or on the inside. On the inside, I get the feeling Ward might be able to get inside of Kovalev's arms. Right? But he's going to have to be fully invested on being inside and living inside. Right? But I just got to tell you, I just don't see how anybody beats Kovalev staying in the pocket. Right? I just don't. And let me say, in terms of coming inside and staying inside, I'd say most fighters don't have that skill. Right? You know, around the weight class, really, the only guys I can think of who can get inside and stay inside would be Ward and James DeGale. Right? And DeGale's at 168. So, Kovalev, this is a real champ. He has a great corner. I got the feeling we didn't even see his entire game. I saw some crisp jabs, but he didn't really live on the jab because he was landing power shots. You didn't even get to see, really, the full effectiveness of his jab because the guy didn't need it. Right? Understand, too, Pascal is a warrior. He's world class. He's not chopped liver. And he got methodically mowed down. He actually tried to move around yesterday. Right? And Kovalev chased him down. Doesn't give him room to breathe. Kovalev is the kind of guy who has such a big punch and who throws such volume that it's very hard not to fall into his rhythm. Right? An opponent's going to have to break that rhythm, either from the outside or the inside. You cannot play chess with the guy who hits this hard in the pocket. Let me say this too. One move that intrigued me, I thought it was effective, that Pascal did was Pascal would duck under Kovalev's power shots, right? Because Kovalev, who did go to the body a bit, but Kovalev's big power is really up top, right? So this almost started resembling Alexander Povetkin against Marco Huck, if you remember that fight, right? But Pascal wasn't able to duck under the punch, then get inside and go to work on his body. Right? I don't view Kovalev as defensively blessed. but his offense is so dominant that it's difficult to hang around long enough to time a counter. Right? So this is a dangerous man. Let me say this too. You know, boxing's a grown man's sport. Right? I love Kovalev's interview after the fight. It was jaw-dropping. He's in front of a Canadian crowd after having beaten one of Canada's most beloved fighters. And they ask him, hey, are you still upset with Jean Pascal? Do you still think bad of him? And Kovalev says, yeah, I don't like him. Crowd starts jeering. Right? Kovalev even admits to prolonging the fight so he could inflict more pain on Pascal. All I can say about that is, look, man, this is the sport of Sonny Liston. If you want to see a guy booed, if you want to see a guy who was a villain, I want folks to go back to the Liston-Ali rematch. When Ali enters the ring, this was right after he comes out as Muhammad Ali. When Ali enters the ring, he's booed in Lewiston, Maine. Right? I want people to go back to Floyd Mayweather in the lead up to the Arturo Gatti fight. Right? I know Mayweather played the villain a lot of times. Right? Enters the ring wearing Mexican gear against Oscar De La Hoya. Right? But Mayweather in those pre-Gotti interviews was really hard, saying that he was going to slap Gotti and there was nothing Gotti could do about it and stuff like that, right? Kovalev, he is jarring. This is a man, folks, right? He's not afraid to play the villain. I'm just telling you, the light heavyweight division has just gotten a lot better. Right? This guy is dangerous. He certainly did much better than I thought he would. Right? I was looking at his punching power and I was like stunned. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've known of Kovalev for years. If you Google Dwyer, Kovalev, you're going to see videos going back for years. I've taken Kovalev in big fights. The Nathan Kovalev fight in the UK. But I got to tell you, punchers are born. They're not made. Right? Some guys just have big-time punching power. Right? Kovalev, looked like Chavez, not Junior, Senior. Right? That's the level of punching power. Pascal several times looks frozen. He gets hit. This is a guy who beat Boutte. Right? This is a guy who beat Dawson. Right? Pascal gets hit and he's like frozen at times. Very impressive win. It's going to take a lot to beat this man. If Stevenson signs to fight Kovalev, my belief is that fight's going to end by stoppage. Right? Even though Stevenson's been going the distance in some fights, that fight necessarily would have to end by stoppage. Either Stevenson gets lucky or Stevenson gets knocked out. Right? Andre Ward at 175 pounds. Let's see how he looks in his next fight. Let's see how the weight sits on him. Because he's going to have to be at the top of his game to deal with this guy. I'll say this, though. I believe with Andre Ward, if Ward gets inside, it's a mismatch inside. But keep in mind, there isn't a big margin of error. Right? Both of these guys, ironically, got dropped by the same guy, Darnell Boone. Right? Ward would have to be careful in dealing with Kovalev's power. In other words, if you're inside and you back up too much, too recklessly, and you have a hand down, and Kovalev just is able to lean in and hit you on the temple, it doesn't take much for him to knock you down. Let me go one step further. People looked at Kovalev against Hopkins. And the party line, the popular narrative was, hey, look, Hopkins didn't look good that night. Hopkins really got battered. You know what? We should give Bernard a medal for going 12 rounds with this guy. Right? You're what, damn near 50 years old with this hard-hitting young lion, and you're able to do something nobody else has done? Jean Pascal has had 2 cracks at going the distance with him. Hasn't come close. How close did Nathan Cleverly come? Right? I mean, guys are dropping. Hopkins somehow went the distance. Maybe that Hopkins tape shows us a few things on how to survive against Kovalev. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Let's try to beat the casino. I'll agree. Would have been better for me personally if Pascal would have won. You know what? Getting, plus 950s are always better, right? Aren't they? Than shorter odds. But I'll say that plus 950 opened the door for me on the minus 400, which wouldn't have been attractive if I didn't have expected winnings on the other side of the play, right? So the Kovalev by KO prop delivered. Gamblers were taken care of. Simply put, that's why we hedge fights. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Thanks for stopping by.